And she herself, the queen, produces truth and reason. So she's the queen, right? She's the queen as we've crowned her. Right? Now, he says now, that's not what you must do now, is catch sight of this, the highest. He doesn't call it the king. I infer that from the structure. Right? So that you have to do some work. He calls the sun the king. He calls this the most brilliant light of being, the queen, and therefore the king is married to the queen, and the sun stands to sunlight, as here the good stands to the idea of the good. Now, what does that mean? That means there's a state of mind superior to this. Vastly superior to this in the image of the king and the queen. But they together are a royal pair. What does that mean? Well, you're not going to capture it in this. Not going to capture it in this. Because both of these refer to this, the idea of the good. Both of these then refer to this. From here on. So, let's take it off. He says, you know, there is something about the state, the idea of the good. It's not ultimate. It's not ultimate because there is something that must be born from that and nurtured and developed. There is a certain kind of excellence that must emerge from it. It takes a certain art, to both gain a vision of this beauty itself, as well as to develop and nurture this excellence that has emerged from it. Now, this is the most curious of questions. People who experience this state throughout history, right? Many, most, it is inconceivable to them that can be anything higher. What can be higher than bliss? This is the experience that's called in the New Testament, in chapter 9 in Mark, right? If one is in that state, on the highest level, the transfiguration. Jesus goes up in the mountain, and he is transfigured in this divine luminosity. Out of the divine luminosity emerges Moses and Elijah. The word they use to describe that experience is called the glory. The word in Greek is a curious word. It's a doxa, which means appearance, sometimes opinion, sometimes presence, a presence, an appearance. Because when Moses was transfigured, and it was called again the glory, God tells Moses to build the tabernacle. The tabernacle is meant to contain the presence of that experience. Therefore, the tabernacle is the presence of God. Therefore, this divine luminosity is the presence or the appearance of God. It is not God, it's certainly divine. Therefore, it's called doxa. It's the appearance of the divine. It's the way the divine appears, the way God appears in this world through this kind of experience. It's not God. That's merely the appearance of it or the presence of it, not the nature of it. That same distinction, therefore, is what we're saying stands between the good and the idea of the good. Same thing. For this is nothing other than this. Now, let's pull it again. Let's take a look at it again. When people experience this, they are overwhelmed by the beauty, and it's inconceivable that such an experience, which is the very nature of creativity and bliss, that there can be anything higher. But there is a certain excellence that develops out of that, and it has to be nurtured and developed. And what it is turns upon the experience itself and asks a rather audacious question. What, in heaven's name, right? What could possibly be the source of that? Start with this idea. Would you agree? Anything at all that you can say is or exists, whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever it is, there must certainly be a cause for whatever you say is. But you see, being itself, that's an interesting way of writing something that is itself, being itself, right? It's a form of the verb is. This certainly is the highest form of existence. It's called reality, ultimate reality. It's the highest expression of what is. But if we agree that you can always ask of anything that is, what is its cause, you've got yourself a rather curious problem. How can there be a cause for that? For this overwhelming and most beatific experience. Well, but wait a minute. If it is, if what is must have a cause, you're then driven, if you have that sense of excellence, and you have to nurture that question, and you have to develop it to see where in heaven's name that goes. Where does it go? If you can talk about it being caused, then the cause must be greater than the thing that is produced.